Welcome to Make Something Happen, number 57. My goodness, that reminds me of a particular kind of soup that I rather like. See if you can spot the connection. Maybe you can't, I don't know. Right, now this one starts off with the TinySurvey logins repository, which I've downloaded from the GitHub site for this book, and I'm going to use for this. Now again, you have to make an environment file for this to work. Remember, the environment file is like a stand-in file for environment information that you will configure in the app when you deploy to the cloud. But for development on my little PC here, I need to be able to use a local database and put some values in which I can use to make the application work. And as you can see on the screen at the moment, there are 3 values that the system wants to actually have. The first is the good old database URL, which is in this case using the Mongo database on my local machine. Then there are 2 other pieces of information: the initial admin username and password. Now, as we work through this chapter, we're going to further develop the TinySurvey logins application and describe what it does. I'm jumping ahead a bit here. I'm giving you the ending before we've got there, but if you think about it, you'd rather like to have a username you could use to reset people's passwords, because otherwise they'll log onto our system, make a username, and then they'll forget the password, and they'll contact you and say, please can I have my password changed, please? And you'll have to do that for them. The way that this one works, it uses what's called role-based security. And what that means is that certain usernames have been given roles that allow them to do more powerful stuff. And we see this all the time in applications that we use. Some usernames are more powerful than others. There's an admin property which we can add to a username, and that's what happens. But you have to have a username to start with. You have to have an admin username to start with. And so I've made one here, which is called surveymaster@tinysurveys.com. This is looks a bit like an email address, but doesn't have to be, although I've called it that. And I've given it the amazing password, Mango Chutney Diva, which is fine. What that means is when the application first starts, it will build a new username with the address surveymaster@tinysurveys.com and the password there. I can then use that to log in and actually manage users, and so that's a good starting point. Now, when you deploy it, you will set these for your application by putting them into environment variables, which will work. I'm going to use these values here just to get the thing going, and we'll be playing with how that works and changing usernames and passwords a bit later once we've figured out how the role-based security is implemented, because at the moment all I really want to do is excuse me, oh dear, all I want to do is actually make some logins and show you how that bit works. So I'll get rid of that. I'll get myself up. Pardon me. Oh, one other thing I'll mention, because it's a good thing to mention, there's a readme.md file for this app. If I go on there, it tells me what the configuration information is. Now, this is the readme file. It's in markdown format, which is what these hashes mean. Single hash means heading, double hash means subheading, and triple hash means sub-subheading, and 3 backticks means code sample. And I specify here what the configuration values look like for anyone who wants to deploy my application. That's a nice thing to do. I should put my name at the bottom too and other things, but I haven't done that because I'm not that vain. So, right, where were we? Yes, open up a program file. Well, fire up a terminal, in fact. Here we go. JavaScript 2 debug terminal. I'm going to do the usual thing using NodeMon and get the program running. So if I can use up arrow, can I? It's not there. Oh, okay, fair enough. In that case, then I'll go. The reason why I was looking is that I'd forgotten what it's got. I'm going to go npm run dev start. And what that means, if you've forgotten, and I had, if you look in package.json, we'll find that inside here are the scripts for the entry points. One's called dev start, and it will run nodemon tinysurvey. Now I could have just typed that, but no, I'm going to actually do it this way. So we'll do that. There'll now be a rattling noise, and hopefully this will work. As you know, my fingers are presently tightly crossed, and that should start the program running. Ticky ticky ticky, and at this point it's firing up the NodeMon platform, and within that it will now fire up TinySurvey, attach a debugger, and at this point everything in the garden should be wonderful and the survey system should start working, which would be lovely. And I think it should say Oh, there we go. It's that's lovely. I'm really pleased about that because that means it's doing what it said in the tin. Remember my env thing here? I said, oh gosh, I hope this is recording. If I've lost this is like gold dust. There's now a username called the username Survey Master and a password of there. And the very first time this system runs, it actually makes that username, and you have just seen it made. Because we now have a username we can use to log in with to change users' passwords. That's coming later. I don't want to get distracted from what we're doing today, which is actually registering users. I go into my browser. I go into, that's left over from where I was before. I want to go back to the index. So I'm going to go localhost, and I'm going to go back to the index page, please. And we'll see if we can log in. So I'm going to go index.html. Hello, that will do absolutely perfectly. Boink. And this is how the new application will work. Now, as you know, because you've seen the insides of the system, you could log in. We could use that mango chutney password, and we could log in as admin. But I don't want to do that. I want to log in as Rob, so I will do that. And I'll give myself a username of rob@robmiles.com, which is an email address for me. There are others. That's the one that works the best. And I can give myself a password of secret. Now, do not forget that I may have to wind the tape back and look if I forget the name. Secret. Okay, so I want to hit. No, I'm not going to do that because I can't. It won't work. If I log in now, it'll say invalid user password, which is fine. Continue. I'm going to register, and here we go. This is the register. Now you've done this on websites hundreds of times, but now you're doing it with code that you know how it works. So I can go in here, please fill in this file. I will do that. Rob, my middle name is Simon. I've learned to live with it. Rob Miles, and we'll go in here. We'll put rob@robmiles.com, and for the password, I will still use secret. I'm sure it's fine. And now, other thing to note, I get a little script here which tells me what the site's going to do. It uses cookies to track your survey usage. A cookies on your browser. Yeah, that's that bit we know about. And then it says we'll store your username and password, and you need to use those to get in there to create and vote in surveys. And it basically says if you're not happy with either of those conditions, then please don't register, because that's how the system works. If I hit register, then it's made a user. And so now I can log in, and don't forget your password, secret, Rob. SECRED, login. The login, did I type secret wrong? Rob@robmiles.com. Let's try again. Okay, that didn't work. Right, I'm going to have to go and have a look. I'll be back in a second. Whatever happens, it will be interesting. And we're back. Yeah, I found the bug. I found the error. And it's a mistake that I made in the environment file. I'm showing you the environment file here at the moment. For those of you that want to see the program go wrong, it goes wrong just about here. I put a breakpoint in to watch what happens. It checks the password. The password is valid, and it's in the process of creating a web token, which is the thing that will control access to your surveys for a given amount of time from the browser. It's a session thing. What's going to happen is when you log in, you can use the survey code. You can make your own surveys and do all that kind of stuff for a while. If you stop using the browser, walk away for a while, after a while your session will time out. It's all part of the session management. It's coming up in the text, so a little look forward to what we're going to be doing here. But when you've got your, see what happens here is the bcrypt thing compares your passwords to see if they're the same, and if they are, it goes, hey ho, we're valid. Then it tries to make an access token, and it needs to have these secret strings. Now the secret string is used to actually encrypt your token and make it impossible for somebody else to replicate your token, because the secret string is held inside the app and never made visible to the outside world. Right? Fine, but you have to have one. It lives in the environment variables. Except that in our system it doesn't, because I haven't copied those things in. So what I can do is I can look in the README file for the app, which is there to tell us about it. And this is a markdown file, and it contains, we need an active token secret and a refresh token secret. And these are big big strings of text. And the idea is that these strings of text, which I'm copying now, are completely unique in the universe and space. And if I now just go down here, I can add them as variables, as values, environment variables inside our application. Now, what you will do when you deploy this, we've already discussed, you're going to set the password and username for our initial admin. Fine. Then you're going to set these two values as well. And there are tools online you can use to make random sequences of characters. And these will be held inside your app as properties, just like we've set properties from the environment variables before when we deployed our Azure applications for the survey in the last chapter. So these will be sitting inside your application. They'll exist nowhere else. They'll be used to sign and validate tokens coming backwards and forwards. And the idea is that no one can fake a token because no one's got your secret. And there are two secrets. One is the active one, which basically makes the thing, and a second one which is used for refreshing. And the idea is that you have these two separate. So the first one gets you in and the second one keeps you going. And that's kind of how it works. But they have to be there. Otherwise, what happens is this particular piece of code throws an exception. And if it throws an exception, I have a catch down here, which says, if we get an error, display a message, login failed, please contact support. And that's me. And if I was a really nice person and it was a proper app, that string would also tell me how to contact support, what the email address was, and all kinds of other things as well. But we're just at the moment, we're not quite that far yet. So that's what's been happening. That's why it's gone wrong. And now I'm going to have to effectively just change this program a little bit and force it. Well, let it run on, because it will display the error in the browser. Here we go. So I've got the browser. The browser says, yeah, it didn't work. And so, yeah, quite right too. Now, all I have to do is restart the program. So I'm going to make a tiny change to this file, which is a bit silly. I'll add a space on the end there, save it, and then it'll now restart the application for me, attach the debugger and all that stuff. So the takeaway from this is always test your demos before you do them. And I had tested it, but not on this particular computer. And I'm really pleased I'm doing this because I'm using a new empty computer, not my development machine, to do this. And I'm finding all these things out before you do when you're learning from it. So, okay, we now have our secrets in place and everything now. I should probably save this. I didn't save that file. Oh no. So I have to do it again, probably. Yes. Well, let's just see. Yeah, I think I have to stop it to add another space on this line and then save it and then have the whole thing restart. And I do apologize for this. I won't edit it out though, because it's more real this way. Server's running. Let's see if we can log in. So if I go back to here, and as I remember, my username is rob@robmiles.com and my password is secret. Now the login's working fine. I'm not getting the error you can't log in. I'm getting the error we couldn't make a session. Let's see what happens this time. Ah, we're in. We're straight in. Not a problem. And this is a session. I have to keep using this for the sessions, so I can now make a survey, which I could call Rob's Pizza. Open the survey. It's still there. I can vote for pepperoni, because everybody should vote for pepperoni. And now I'm going to send my preference. And I should get... Oh, it's gone... It's gone wrong again. Okay, I'll have to have a look at why that is. Oh well, app crashed. Okay. I think it's because I'm using. Yeah, it's because I've got an old survey. This is a problem. You can. The database I'm using, Mongo, is kind of friendly and flexible. You can add new fields and whatnot, but it doesn't put those into old database entries. Now, I made Rob's Pizza before we had creator GUIDs, so it won't work. It'll actually crash it. Now, that's a thing that should never happen, because you shouldn't open an old database file, because that file shouldn't exist. I've been making these things as I've been writing the notes, and if I called the survey anything else, it would have worked fine. You have no reason to believe that, so I will prove it for you. So I'll do that. I'll save it, and hopefully will that restart everything, or will it not? Let's see. And so the app fell over at that point because of the fact that that's an old database, and I'll show you why it's different in a second. But I want to get closure on this, so now I'm going to go back here. I'm going to But this will last. This one will last about a week. This particular Make Something Happen. But I don't care because I'm learning stuff, and I rather hope you guys are as well. So if I hit index and do a refresh, it will ask me to log in. So I'll log in, and yes. So I'm going to call it secret. I'm going to go log in, and I'm logged in, and I'm going to look for a password, which I'm going to call, I don't know, kapow. And this is basically a very, very poor test. Hit open survey. Never heard of that. So I'm going to go, I don't know, Q for that one, W for that one, E, R, T. Start survey. And I can place a vote. Let's vote for W. And it works fine. Now, as I am the owner of this, I can actually manage the survey. I can delete it. I can reset the counts. I can reload the counts, and I can go back to the home page. So it's all working. The reason why it failed was because rather foolishly, when I was showing off, I opened an old survey. And now I'm going to show you what I actually mean by that, because we're going to do the second half. So you thought we were done? We're not done. We're still cracking on. We're going to do the next piece of the exercise, which involves taking a look at the data behind the app itself, which is this bit here. And the idea is here that what we've now got is a situation where we've registered a user, and it'd be kind of funky to take a look at what that actually means and what's happened. And while we're there, we'll take a look at a couple of surveys and see if we can find out why my program blew up as well. So I'm going to connect to my local host here. And there we are. And this is my tiny surveys down here. And down here I've got two tables. One's called surveys, and inside here are all my surveys. There's one called Rob's Pizza. Let's have a look at it. It contains, yeah, here we go. This will underpin exactly why it blew up. Rob's Pizza contains the topic and the options. Hurrah! Kapow, the one we made a few seconds ago, contains the topic, kapow, the options there, and a creator GUID. Now what that does is it ties back to me, to the person Rob Miles who logged in. That identifies me as the creator of that. And if I look in survey users down here, then we can see there's the admin one that we know was created when the system started up. And here's me. And it's got my name, it's got my email, it's got the surveys I've completed, which in this case just contains kapow. And it also has my password. Now the password looks like guacamole, and that's I've never had guacamole. I should have some. One day I'll have guacamole. It looks like a mess. What happens is that it's stored in this encrypted form using a key to do that, and that means that you can never take your password from the database and work out what was actually typed in. So that is actually the word secret encrypted in some way, but we'll never see that. But this is basically, and if I look down here, then my ID is 6409. That's the ID which the database system has given me when it created me. And let's just remember 6409, shall we, and go back and look at surveys. Let's look at kapow. 6409. There it is again. This is how it all works. This is how it all links together. So when I make when I make a user, when I make anything in Mongo, it gets given an ID value, which is here and is unique for everything in that database. So this thing I get for free. It identifies me. That's almost poetry. And I can use that in my software to tag things in particular ways. So in here I can say this is the person that made it, and then I can, so if someone asks for survey with the topic kapow, then the system can go off and find it and say, oh yeah, I know who created that. That was this person, and then it can go off and find that person, i.e. me, and then off we go. So this is how it fits together underneath. You're getting quite a nice understanding. You're also getting an understanding of how it can blow up. But I think this is the kind of incompetence which is useful, because it's shown you several useful things. Firstly, your environment variables must be copied across when you run the program. These are only required for development. When I store the application, when I deploy the application, the .env file will stay safely on my laptop and won't go anywhere else. And what's more, when I deploy it, I won't use these strings. I'll have the database URL, the actual real one, the admin username and the admin password I can make and configure for my app. And the same is true for these two secret values as well. So this is just like a placeholder to get me going on my local machine. But I have to have all the fields there. Otherwise, as we have seen, my program will fail in a mildly spectacular way. But in terms of the aims of this make something happen, well, we've made lots of things happen. We've logged in and we've done all kinds of good stuff. So I think at this point I'm going to say, well, that seems to have worked, and look forward to the next Make Something Happen. Thank you for staying to the end.